Namaste. Welcome to TSET Programs on Education. So today our topic is language learning theories. We have this topic in B.Ed as well as D.Ed and D.EL.E.Ed. So what are language learning theories? The theories which describe the language learning process are called as language learning theories. So the major learning theories, we are going to discuss today about the major learning theories. So one is behaviorist theory, the others are nativist theory, cognitivist theory, constructivist theory. So we can also say the remaining three, nativist theory, cognitivist theory and constructivist theory, are related to the mental abilities of the students. Now let us see the behaviorist theories. The researchers behind these are Pavlov. Let us talk about the Pavlov. So he talked about stimulus response. So we need to provide stimulus to the students to get appropriate response. In English language teaching, we can use this as we need to provide motivation to the students to get appropriate response and to make them learn effectively. Now another behaviorist is B.F. Skinner, and he is also a behaviorist and he developed the theory of operant conditioning. So this is slightly different from stimulus response theory. Here we are conditioning the learning of the students. Now what Skinner says is behavior is determined by its consequences, be they reinforcements or punishments, which can make it more or less likely that the behavior will occur again. That means we need to condition the learning so that we can get effective learning. So you see this picture, what do you observe in this picture? So in the first picture we see that the child is interacting with the parent or probably the teacher, and how is the interaction? The child is being appreciated. So we can see the rapport in between them and the child is happy. So he is getting the positive reinforcement and he will continue learning because of the positive reinforcement. What do you observe in the second picture? In the second picture, the child is probably threatened and he probably is scared and not to do the mistake, and this works as negative reinforcement. And in language, even if the student commit mistakes, we always give positive reinforcement so that the student always continue learning, positive learning. So even if the student suppose commit some mistake, like some mistake in like adding past tense or future, then we should appreciate, okay, even if he commits mistake, okay, you have done this mistake, but you can continue, you have learned something. So in that way, if we encourage, that works as positive reinforcement. Now if we observe how language is learnt, now what do you observe in this picture? The child is imitating the parent. So usually the children observe a lot the surrounding people, parents, then brothers, sisters, neighbors, and they try to imitate the language. So this way always children learn language through imitation. Even in the school also, the student imitates the teacher. Thus he learns the pronunciation and how to use word stress, intonation, etc. So the teacher needs to be perfect in the word stress, using word stress, pronunciation, etc. so that the children can learn pronunciation effectively. Now what do we learn from the behaviorist approach? We need to provide stimulus to students to learn language. So by providing stimulus to students, teachers learn, students learn effectively. So they are getting motivated and they learn. Now we also need to, students use imitation, repetition, and it helps the students to learn correct pronunciation and word stress. Learning needs to be in small, concrete, progressively sequenced steps. So, we need to plan how to present the language to the students. It should not be at one go, it should be in small concrete steps. It has to be properly sequenced, so that students can learn the things, the rules, etc. properly. And then positive reinforcement strengthens confidence, whereas negative reinforcement affects confidence. We need to use reinforcers like good, excellent during the teaching learning process. So, when the student performs, when the student answers, so we have to say, yeah, good, you have done excellent work, keep it up. So, by saying these words, we are improving his confidence. And language learning happens through habit formation. So, we need to make it a habit. We have to make the students to think, to talk in English. Habituation should be done, so that they can start thinking and speak in English. Negative language habits and other undesirable responses can be broken by removing the positive reinforcers connected with them. Immediate and consistent positive reinforcement increases the speed of learning. So, by appreciating the student immediately, you are rather encouraging the student to continue his positive learning. Now, Noam Chomsky, he has come out with the nativist theory. So, what is nativist theory? So, innate learning ability, language acquisition device. So, he has come out with the idea that every child is born with a language acquisition device. Because of that, this intuitive ability is helping the children to understand the rules of a language and have the capacity to understand and speak an infinite number of grammatical sentences. If you observe how the children are speaking mother tongue, or any language, even second language also. So, whatever we are speaking, we have probably not learned them, but we are still using them in our daily conversation. So, because of his idea is that because of the language acquisition device, we are able to produce so many sentences. And another researcher, Stephen Krashen, he has come out with another theory of learning, that is language acquisition does not require extensive use of conscious grammatical rules and does not require tedious drill. So, his idea is acquisition requires meaningful interaction in the target language. So, we need to provide in the classroom meaningful interaction, and natural communication should be possible, in which the speakers are concerned not with the form of their utterances, but with the message they are conveying and understanding. So, we need to have some situations wherein the focus is on performing, on using the language, but not on the form. Now, in India, English is learned as a second language, and we teachers are striving to make second language learning as easy like language acquisition. So, usually language is acquired like mother tongue. So, it is acquired very easily because of lot of exposure. So, we also in the classrooms, we are trying to give more exposure to the students in English language. So, we need to engage the learner in natural communication and use authentic input. So, we can use task based learning, storytelling and activity based programs. And we also can have task based activity, like we can give the map to the students and ask them to plan a trip. You can tell them, okay, I want to go to Delhi, so how do you plan my trip? So, you see the map and you use the railway timetable, you can give the railway timetable to the student and then ask him to plan. And in the process, unconsciously he is not focusing on the form, but on using the language. He is trying to frame sentences. This encourages him to use the language with ease. We can also make them talk about daily routines, and we can give them timings like when do you get up, when do you go to bed, when do you go to school. So, like this, about their schedule, you can ask them to talk about their schedule. So, this makes them rather think about their schedule, and so that they can use the language in their daily communication about the activities they are doing. Now, Piaget. Piaget is the person who has come out with a cognitivist theory. So, cognitive development is a progressive reorganization of mental process as a result of biological maturation and environmental experiences. So, according to him, according to the age the child develops language. So, as he matures, so he is able to learn the language. Now, according to him, children construct an understanding of the world around them, then experience discrepancies between what they already know and what they discover in their environment. The child is learning something at home and the child is coming to the school and he is learning some things. So, he is trying to understand new things and then discover new things and exploring and then trying to talk about them. So, children pass through stages of development. Cognitivist theories are talking about these stages of development. So, accordingly we need to provide language education to the students. Teachers need to understand the individual differences, different stages of development of language, the learner, and then strengths and limitations of learners and teach them accordingly. And teachers need to assess students' readiness and provide instructions appropriate to the learner's level of development. Now, if you see at primary level, the cognitive ability of the students is different, and at secondary level it is different, at senior secondary level it is different. So, at primary level we need not focus too much on rules, whereas at secondary level their cognitive level is a bit mature. So, we can make the students, even the situations we give according to their biological process, we can give them examples and then make them rather understand the rules, because at young age students do not have any kind of inhibitions, whereas at secondary level, senior secondary level, they have a lot of inhibitions to speak. So, if they understand the rules, then they can probably use the language with ease. So, we according to the maturity level of the students, we need to make them learn language. So, when we come to constructivist theory, it is a socio-cultural theory. Children construct knowledge on their own from their experiences and through interaction with others. The people behind this are Vygotsky, Dewey and Bruner. And Vygotsky is a very popular cognitivist, and his ideas are zone of proximal development and scaffolding. What is zone of proximal development? So, in zone of proximal development, his idea is that the student tries to improve the present level of learning to potential development through interaction with others. He is trying to improve, he is trying to interact with others, learning from others, and because of the zone where people are available, so he is trying to learn better. So, scaffolding, learning from other knowledgeable persons. So, children try to learn from teachers, from a peer group. And another cognitivist is Dewey, John Dewey and Jerome Bruner. So, let us see what these people have said about cognitivism. And John Dewey, content must be presented in a way that allows the students to relate the information to prior experiences, thus deepening the connection with the new knowledge. Engage students in real world situations. So, always the child is coming with some background, and if you provide some situations where he can link with the previous knowledge, and then he can understand his knowledge better and he can communicate better. So, we need to engage students in real world situations, and students, teachers need to conduct practical workshops in which they would demonstrate their knowledge through creativity and collaboration. Students should be provided with opportunities to think for themselves and articulate their thoughts. So, in the classroom, we need to have some workshops so that they can demonstrate their knowledge, and they also can present their creativity and collaboration. Students should be provided with opportunities to think for themselves and articulate their thoughts. So, in the classroom, we need to make them like, we can ask them to talk about their daily schedule or their way of life, or their interests, etc., so that we are giving them opportunities to think for themselves and articulate their thoughts. Another constructivist is Bruner. So, according to him, language is an active process. Learner forms new ideas based on what their current knowledge is as well as their past knowledge. And Bruner, like Vygotsky, emphasized the social nature of learning and scaffolding. And we already have seen what is scaffolding, that is others, teachers or other knowledgeable persons, they try to help the learner. So, and we are providing some opportunities for them to interact with them. So, and through this learner forms new ideas and then his knowledge gets expanded. And the teacher resources used should be focused on encouragement, aiding and allowing the students to uncover the main principles on their own. So, this is a very important idea, that is, so you are making the student explore on his own. So, earlier if you see, we were always teacher oriented classes and teacher was coming and teaching about the concept, etc. Whereas here we always make the student learn on his own. So, teacher needs to plan how to make him explore on his own. You need to provide probably a lot of teaching aids and then a lot of discussions, so that they can explore and learn on his own. Now, teacher also has to conduct practical workshops in which they would demonstrate, So, here what should we do? Students sit in groups and learn together. So, for this purpose, what we need to do is to make the students explore. We make the students sit in groups and learn together. They collaborate and cooperate with one another. Now, if you see in the classrooms, so how is the size, how is the infrastructure of the in the classroom? So, we need to decide how many students should be there in the group. So, depending upon the classroom size, infrastructure and number of students in the class, we can plan how many students should be there in the group, and you can also see the psychology of the students. And suppose in the classrooms in many of the government schools we have like 3 students in one bench. So, in that case you can have like 3 students only in one group. Suppose you can move the chairs, then in that case you can have 5 students in the group. So, ideal size should be like 3 to 5. If the group size increases, like if it is 7, 8, then the interaction between them is not much and they cannot interact, they cannot collaborate and they form into 2 groups again. So, in our observation, what we have experienced is that students should be like 3 or 3 to 5 in a group. So, this teacher can decide this, how many students should be there in the group. And then you need to make the students, you also have to see the student psychology. How is the psychology? Are they really able to talk together? Will they cooperate? Suppose if they are not in talking terms, then probably you cannot put all of them in one group. So, according to the students' interests, it is better if you give the option to the students. Even if the teacher decides also, in that case also, you need to consider their interests and then group them, so that they can collaborate better and they cooperate with one another better. So, the suggested activities for classroom transaction are group discussion and debates. So, we have seen that in constructivist approach, we want the students to sit in groups, and you can give activities like group discussion and then make the students discuss in group. We can also have debates. Now, this is a kind of arrangement ideally for constructivist approach. If they sit like this in a circle, then they can have face to face interaction and they can have eye contact and they can interact better. So, this kind of arrangement is ideal. Even if it is not possible, you can make the students whoever sit in one group, one bench, you can have them as one group. So even debates are also another interesting option where they can interact better, and what is happening in these group discussions are debates. So students develop LSRW skills very easily: listening, speaking, reading and writing. Now in group discussion they learn many skills. So they learn how to, first and foremost is they plan how to have a group discussion. In the planning they collaborate and then they collect information and they arrange the points in, and then they sit in a group and then they discuss, and they also plan who has to initiate the talk and who will be communicating the idea and who is elaborating the idea. So this way you make the students learn LSRW skills also very easily. While interacting they are using listening, speaking skills, and they read a lot of information, get the information and they present it. These two are very good options for developing the skills, language skills. And other interesting activities are drama, role play and language games. So even for playing the drama also, drama students plan, they have to plan, they collect the information, they interact with one another and they collaborate. Through collaboration and cooperation, they write the dialogues and they present the drama. So lot of interaction and cooperation is required for the successful drama. And role play is also playing the roles which are there probably in the textbook. So in the textbook you can take any kind of story and then make the students write the roles, the dialogues and then enact them. So in the process they are learning reading and writing skills, how to write the dialogues and how to present them, and also voice modulation. And language games are also another option. So constructivist theory is making the students explore on their own and present on their own. So if you see the behaviorist theory, here let us talk about behaviorism. Here lot of importance is given to imitation and response, imitation and repetition. So we want the students to imitate the teacher, so you provide a lot of substitution table and then lot of exercises so that they frame the sentences and repeat, and also a lot of drilling is given so that they imitate the teacher. So here importance is given to habit formation. The idea here is habit formation. So we want the students to get habituated to speaking and imitate. Through imitation we want them to learn the language, exact pronunciation and practice speaking. And for this teacher needs to probably prepare a lot of teaching aids and make the student repeat. Drilling is one thing which the teacher needs to give daily, so that the child imitate and repeats. So and also another aspect of behaviorism is reinforcers, using reinforcers. Reinforcement is very much important. So we need to make the student to form into habit formation. And when he gets into that habit formation and when the child is speaking, then what happens is if he is positively appreciated, appraisal is there, then he continues using the language. Otherwise what happens in our society is somebody wants to speak language, and then many people somehow sarcastically comment about him, then the student stops talking in English. So it shouldn't be done. We need to appreciate the student whenever he attempts. Even if the student talks with mistakes also, then we need to appreciate the student. So then only the child our student continues speaking in English. Teachers and even the students' friends also need to be aware of this. I think teachers need to make everyone in the classroom be aware of this, not to be sarcastic of the mistakes the friends are his or her friends are committing, so that they continue to give positive reinforcement only to the student who is attempting to speak. And sometimes the child may have language negative language habits, and we can correct that, and then we can make them repeat. Suppose he is not pronouncing correctly, instead of simply sarcastic or negatively commenting, we can make the student we can make them repeat. You can give the drilling for this. And nativist theory language acquisition device, we have seen that the child has the language ability. So, we need to provide lot of situations to the students. So, suppose if you see the students who are not very formally trained, even those people are also speaking English. If you see a child who is born in like US or UK, he is able to speak. How is he able to speak? Because of that innate ability. A child can pick up any number of languages when he is exposed to the language. So, the exposure is very important, and making them practice through proper situations is also very important. As Krashen said, that acquisition requires meaningful interaction. When the child is undergoing through the meaningful situations, the child tries to speak language, and the focus is on the framing sentences using the language, not on the form. So, if you observe even our trainees also, when they teach biology or other social studies, they use language with ease. When they come to teach English language, they commit lot of mistakes. That means here when they are teaching English, they are very conscious of the form of the form, that is the the sentence structure, etc. Because of that, they are conscious of the sentence structure, and whether they are conscious whether they are committing mistakes, and because of that they are not able to speak fluently also sometimes. So, when according to Krashen's idea, we need to provide the situations wherein they can practice with ease and focus on the not on the form, but whereas on using the language. Now, when you see this second language learning, so we need to second language learning and second language acquisition. We are second language learning is rather very formally framed sentences, and we provide language in a systematic way, and because of that sometimes we use a language where if you see the students who are using the language, they are very much conscious of those sentences. If you give them some situations, they can use the language very easily. So, we need to provide some tasks to the students. Task based learning is very rather effective in the classroom. So, in the in your readers, we have seen that many tasks are there. We also have project based learning, and we also make them prepare posters, and we make them do the some kind of drama, etc. So, because of this, and storytelling is something very interesting one. You expose the student to tell some story, you give him some story, what he has done in yesterday, any kind of interesting event which happened, and they can come out with interesting stories also. You can ask them to talk about some picture, and or even just to make them look at the sky and imagine something. Students have a lot of creativity and lot of imagination. We can encourage this by encouraging them to tell the stories, and activity based programs, make them do the activities. So, these programs will help the student to learn language better. So, this map we have already discussed, and talking about schedule also, and even you can even give about the school timetable also, and ask the student to talk about the timetable. So, and the advantages, disadvantages of the school timetable, etc., and about his daily routine. So, why, whether his daily routine is very good or not, why it is not good, why it is good. So, by this the student is focusing on the language being used, not on what he has on the sentences. Always tell the students not to be very conscious of using the language, and always frame sentences with ease. So, when the child is speaking, he has to concentrate on communication. Communication is very important, whether he is able to communicate or not, whether he is able to establish rapport with others or not. That is important. So, when you make the student communicate, like storytelling, so ask him to tell about what happened yesterday, or what he did yesterday, like daily routine. We have talked about daily routine. So, in the daily routine, why it is daily routine, why he is not able to meet the targets, why he is not able to do some things in time, like completing the homework, why he is not able to do. So, when he starts talking about this, then the whole focus is on the activity, why he has done, what he has done. He is introspecting, and then he is thinking, then he is communicating. So, unconsciously he is communicating, and his focus is on communication. He is trying to explain why he has done that, why he could not do that. Now, when we come to cognitivism, this is related to the cognitivist Piaget's theory of understanding the language development, and then accordingly giving the instructions to the students. Now, should we give instructions, the same instructions to the 10th class student as well as 5th class student? Should it be different? Now, if you take a 5th class student, he is he is rather restless, and he wants more activities. So, you give him more activities, you ask him to do some drawing, and he ask him give you a picture, and then ask him to draw and explain about the drawing, or you can ask him to like using some vegetables, etc., and you frame some picture and talk about that. So, this kind of activities are rather better with primary level students, 5th class student. Now, at secondary level student, like 10th class student, his interests are different, and then here you can ask him to talk about the any movie he has gone, or the game he has played, so that the child, so you are understanding the psychology of the student and his interests, and accordingly you are giving situation to the student, and here you can make them understand the rules and then frame sentences. So, when he talks about suppose his future plans, you explain him what kind of tense he has to use, or when he talks about past tense, you explain him the sentence structure, and how he has to use when he talks about his past activities, then how he has to use the sentences. So, he understands the rules and then talks with correct sentences. The 5th class student does not mind committing mistakes, whereas 10th class student minds a lot, and his confidence gets affected a lot if he does not speak properly. So, this guidance about the rules help him to speak correct sentences, and when he speaks correct sentences, he is improving his confidence. And like behaviorist said, we also can appreciate him, that applause helps him to improve his confidence and continue his learning. So, we need to use the whatever suggestions given by the behaviorists and also the cognitivists. So, according to the cognitivists, we are understanding the level of the student and then giving instructions to the students. Now, in constructivist theory, earlier we were rather using only behaviorism and conscious about the constructivism. Right now in our curriculum we are more or less using constructivism only. So, in constructivism, though we are making use of drilling etc., but we are trying to use in our lesson plans constructivism. So, here we are making the students construct knowledge on their own. So, that is why we have groups, we make the students into groups, and then we have already discussed how many students should be there in the group, and we make the student read the lesson and then understand the lesson. The student reads the lesson on his own and he learns the pronunciation. While reading he is learning the pronunciation etc., and he before reading of course he observes how the teacher reads. And when the student reads initially on his own, individual reading is done. So, he understands on his own, and how much he has understood he will make a point on in his notebook. Later on he discusses with his friends how much he has understood, and he interacts with the friends, and then he discusses with the friends how many points he has understood, what he has not understood, and what vocabulary he has not understood, and what the others have understood. So, through this interaction of course we are developing listening skill and speaking skill, and also what we observe here is the students are collaborating and learning together, learning the lesson together. So, when they collaborate with one another, suppose one student has understood the meaning of one word, another student has understood the meaning of another word. So, all those students put together, they try to understand the meaning of those paragraphs, and they also try to list out the points, and in the process a lot of cooperation is there, and they list out and they check whether the points they have written and the order in which it is presented in the textbook, is it correct or not. So, whether they have written correctly or not. So, they are understanding the organization of the ideas, they are understanding the meaning of the words, and also checking whether they have understood correctly or not the main ideas, and then what are the sub ideas, and whether they have got the all the ideas correctly or not, whether they have understood the meaning of the words or not. And in the process, if we observe, lot of interaction in English is happening, that is a very good sign, and all the students together, they they do the role plays and they perform the dramas, and choreography sometimes is done, and through these activities they are trying to understand the ideas and also presenting them. So, when they do the drama etc., so initially first what is happening is the students together they are understanding the lesson, and then now at the second stage they are writing the dialogues and they are presenting, and in the process of presentation also lot of collaboration is being done before presentation, and they present, and when they present, in our experience what we have observed is students are very much excited, and lot of positive learning is happening. Students interact with the teacher and they interact with one another, and so when they are performing they get the confidence, yeah, we are able to speak, it is very nice. So, they get lot of, we have to see their eyes, they really lot of glow is there in the face. So, they are very happy to do these dramas, role plays etc., and when they do the choreography also, lot of creativity is being explored here. Students have lot of imagination, and their imagination is put to use here, and using their creativity they perform the drama. Sometimes they even deviate and they come out with a different ending also, and they the classrooms they have lot of satisfaction in doing this. So, and when we observe in constructivism, we even writing activity also, how we teach them writing. So, in writing, when the students write initially on their own, and then later on they interact with one another, again lot of collaboration happens, and they check others' notebooks also, and they see what is happening, what others have written, and how is their draft. They compare their draft with the others' draft. So, in the process they are learning, they are analyzing, their critical thinking is being developed, and teacher also presents the model draft. So, they critically appreciate why the teacher's draft is better, and what is wrong in their draft, and how is the vocabulary used, and they appreciate sometimes others' drafts. Yeah, he has done, Ramu has written very well, and I couldn't use vocabulary so well. So, they appreciate others, and they are learning with collaboration, and they help one another also. And teacher has to take care of this interaction, whether the interaction is really occurring or not. How is the interaction? Is it positive or not? Are any sarcastic comments are being passed? Teacher needs to take care of these aspects, so that positive interaction happens in the group, and good output will come. So, constructivist approach is really helping the students to develop LSRW skills better, we can say. So, because of a lot of interaction is happening, especially for language teaching, constructivist approach is very useful. Due to collaboration and cooperation, and when they are trying to construct knowledge on their own, they are trying to understand the lesson and construct their own kind of output, their own kind of draft on their own. So, that is, students are developing even writing skills along with the listening and speaking skills, and they are trying to speak really very well, because they are observing how it is pronounced, and they are trying to imitate the teacher. Their pronunciation is also improving a lot when they perform drama or role play. And choreography, they really enjoy choreography. They enjoy reading the poem, then a lot of they do the makeup, and they perform interestingly. So, their students' creativity is being encouraged through this. Students are, because they are collaborating with one another, they are learning very well. So, we can make use of all the language learning theories in our English classes. When we follow constructivism, we cannot ignore what behaviorists have suggested, that is imitation, then habit formation, and positive reinforcement. We need to make use of those aspects also in our language learning theories, and we need to provide a lot of natural kind of situations. We can even take the students to outside, to like parks, etc., or any museums. Then the students they come back, and then they really talk about those. So, when they talk and then they present, they are developing very well. So, we need to make use of all the language learning theories for effective language learning in the classroom. That way, we can encourage the students to learn better. So, we are encouraging the students in these through these activities, and also appreciating them. When they perform, we need to appreciate the students. We should never ignore that aspect of appreciating. So, by appreciating only, we improve the confidence, and they continue learning as well as performing. So, it is very essential duty, I can say that essential duty of the teacher to appreciate the student whenever they perform any language activity. This way, we can try to help the students, and in also consider the psychology of the students, and accordingly you need to mentor them. Consider the students, suppose they are rather, no, they have, every student has his strengths and weaknesses. So accordingly you encourage him, motivate him, and then help him. So that way you develop rapport with the students and make use of the suggestions given by the theorists, whoever presented the language learning theories. Thank you.